Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Hey, welcome to this episode of the Note Close Show. As always, Jack the Beaver today, especially on our money calls. Hope you all had a great weekend. Hope you are rock and rolling. Hey, Cord. Hey, Howie. Hey, folks. Good to see some of our WC and crew calls folks on here. And if you're brand new to note investing, you're thinking about investing in notes, then this is an episode you definitely want to listen to from start to finish. All right. Now, I've been teaching note investing since 2010. This was when I taught my first class about it. I've been buying notes 3 years previously to that. 2007 was when I bought my first note. I've been structuring note deals and working with note investors before that, or real estate investors on the marketing side, creating owner finance notes and stuff like that, and simultaneous closings. Did a lot of stuff. So I've been in the note industry, pure note industry, for over 20 years. All right. Now, if you talk about mortgage investing, that goes all the way back to 2001 is when I got my first loan licensed to do mortgages and did my first mortgage. So I have over 24 years in the mortgage business. And when you understand the mortgage business and you also get into the note business, it's a really great, cohesive connection. And as have worked with so many people, not only just teaching note investing, but speaking at conferences and summits and Association of Realtors, the REI group, the Think Realty events, all the Noteworthy when it was something, the Dress Mortgage Expo when it was something, okay? I talk to so many people, and I see so many people coming from the real estate side. They come from the fix and flip side. They come from the landlord side. They come from the wholesaling side. And they decide they want to get into notes, and they immediately start making mistakes because they start thinking about note investing the same way as they would about real estate. Or they think about what somebody mentioned at an REI club, their local meetup group, or they attended one class about note investing, like owner financing notes or something like that, or creating notes, but they don't understand the non-performing side. So I thought I would share the 11 biggest mistakes that note investors make. And it's a mixture of things, and it's, there's a lot of things in here you will want to take notes of. All right. This is not meant to bash anything. When I get phone calls and people book appointments on my call, not only the brand new person, but I've had hedge funds reach out to me that want to get a note investing spake, and they are making mistakes if they don't follow what I'm saying, because they approach it as one way, think they know everything about real estate. Oh, I've got 20 years of investing experience in real estate. That's great, but it's not, if you're not buying a note, you're not buying a note. Like I had the conversation with a lady out of Chicago last week. Oh, I know everything about note investing. Really? Then why are you calling me? You know what I mean? And she was trying to buy the note on a commercial property and yada, yada. Basically, she's going to make some mistakes, and her 15-minute phone call with me helped her take it a different approach. So I totally encourage you, if you're interested in getting into the note business, please reach out to me at talkwithscottcarson.com. There's no cost to that. Pick up the phone, schedule a time on my calendar that works best for you, and let's help you avoid making these mistakes that will set you back. All right. I've closed on thousands of deals, and yes, I've made many of these mistakes in my past, and I want you to avoid making these. But I see a lot of these mistakes being taught at conferences or workshops from people that are not buying a lot of deals, or they don't have a lot of experience with it, and that aggravates the hell out of me. Okay. You got to understand there are nuances and niches inside notes, especially non-performing notes, that you have access to, but you can also very easily make mistakes. So let's dive into these 11 biggest mistakes for you so that you're not making the same thing. All right, everybody? Number one biggest mistake. Here's the thing I see all the time: only bidding based on what's in your bank balance. When we get these lists of notes in, like we got in 72 notes this morning, 29 non-performing, 43 performing. I see people when they come in the note investing space or they go to these crappy online portals, they only look at what's in their bank account, their checking account, their savings account, their self-directed IRA, and they only bid on one note that would qualify for that. So like if I only got $8,000 in my IRA, they're only going to bid $8,000 on one note. And that's not the way to do it. If you want to get more deals accepted, bid on more than one deal. If you're waiting for the perfect deal, we'll talk about that later on. But if you want to bid on get something accepted, then bid on 10 deals, bid on 20 deals. One little $8,000 note is not going to get you where you want to go. But ultimately, if you just bid on one note and it doesn't get accepted, then you got to go and do research. I've always been for the proponent. Look at what's in your bank balance. And that's great. You've got something covered, but bid on multiple notes. Not all of them are going to be accepted. Most note investors only have about a 10% closing ratio. So make offers at 10 to get one. You'll cancel the rest. If you get all 10 accepted, which rarely happens, you'll end up cutting back, slicing, dicing through due diligence or value, stuff like that. We had one student, a coaching student at Dallas. He bid on 14 notes his first time out, got 14 accepted. He was all stressed out. But ultimately, he only ended up closing on one deal. All right. Now, for those of you who have zero in your bank account, zero in your bank balance, guess what? Still bid on stuff. If you land a good deal and you avoid one of the mistakes later on, we're going to talk about good deals find money. You just got to talk and not be a wallflower when it comes to it. So the biggest thing, like I said, is you limit yourself by what's in your bank account. Does that make sense, everybody? Like, I only got 20 grand in my IRA account. That's all I'm going to bid on. Look, there's a lot of private capital out there, a lot of private money, a lot of sources out there, people in your own warm market that are looking to put their money to work. You just got to go find a deal. So don't have that limited belief of I can only bid on what's in my checking or savings or IRA account. Don't do that. Bid on more assets, bid on more. It's one of the most thought-provoking and changing hurdles that all of our coaching students have come to understand. Like, oh, I'm not going to get everything accepted. I do need to make multiple offers. I don't have this in my account, but you're more likely to get something accepted if you do bid on more assets, and then through natural due diligence, progression, process of elimination, guess what? You close to something, and that's what you've got in your bank account. Great. If you don't, guess what? We'll talk about raising more capital for you. So that's the first one. Only bidding based on what's in your bank balance. If you have zero people, oh, I'm not going to bid on anything. Well, don't do that. That limits yourself. That elimination keeps you from growing further and further and further. If you think about the big investors, the big companies out there, the most successful real estate investors aren't relying on what's in their bank account. Most of the time, they're bidding on stuff they don't have that money for, but they know they're going to go out and find it. Or what they do have is they look to replace it in a lot of cases. So that's one of the beautiful things I love about the note business is, you can often close in a lot more stuff than what's in your bank account. Okay. This leads to number two. The biggest mistake we see people do because of number one is they are not marketing for private money. They don't market at all. I see this happen, and this is more so a big mistake we see from people that have money. They've got money saved. They've got a retirement. They've worked for 10, 20 years. They got a $250,000, $500,000, $1 million in their bank account for retirement. That's great. Now, if you've got $1 million in your bank account, yes, you can buy more than somebody who's got 10 grand. Maybe. It all depends on what that person with 10 grand does for marketing. And it's a great thing to have money. By all means, I'm not bashing those that have worked hard, have money in their retirement accounts, a savings account, or they sold something that's great. It's phenomenal. But at some point, you are all going to need a market for private money. And this is what goes back to people like, oh, I've got 50 grand or 100 grand. I've seen this happen time and time again. I got 100 grand in my account. I'm going to buy 2 or 3 notes. Well, once that 100 grand is spent and invested, a lot of people will just sit back and wait for those deals to close. Well, note investing is not a 90-day cycle. Investing in whether it's performing and non-performing notes, it's going to take 6 months to 12 months, and a lot of times to churn a deal to move through, especially if it's non-performing. If it's performing, you're going to be holding on to it for a while. So you have to embrace the fact that you have to start marketing for private money really right out of the gate. Okay. Now you don't want to make the mistake of I'm just going to start marketing for private money, but not make any offers. I'm going to go get my money secured before I go buying it. That's the chicken before the egg argument. And some people say, oh, you need to go put a fund together and raise the capital. Well, nobody's going to invest with you in a fund if you don't have any experience. So this goes back to the first mistake. If you go find a deal and close on a deal, that's great. But don't let that stop you from doing it. Like when I started investing in notes, I had no money. So I started marketing for private money right out the bat. Start marketing, talking about the types of deals you're doing, the deals you're looking, different case studies. That's the most important thing. If you're sitting there waiting for a rehab to finish selling, or you're waiting to cash out of something or an inheritance, you're just wasting time. They'll make offers. Get out and talk to people. Raise some capital. Those are some of the most important conversations you can have because you got to start that conversation going. All right? That's the biggest mistake I tell people make is they won't go out and start marketing for private money. Oh, I want to prove concept. Look, the concept's been proven. It's proven every day with every bank out there. You're not bigger than Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Chase, Citibank, any of those, okay? You're not bigger than me. But that's the thing is that banks sell notes all the time, okay? They just depends on how big they are and how big they're looking to sell. But there are plenty of institutions out there that will sell you a one-off. No, go raise some capital. Go talk to your friends. Get the word out on what you're doing so that when you do have a good deal, the money's there. And he who has the gold makes the deal. Makes the rules, I'm sorry. Well, in this case, the gold is not the money. The gold is truly the deal. You have a deal, it needs funding. People have plenty of money sitting out there not making anything, sitting on the sidelines. Look at all the self-directed IRA companies that have a huge portion of their money sitting in 0% interest-bearing accounts. It's investors waiting for a deal to come along. You just have to start marketing and open your mouth about the good deal. So go make multiple offers and start marketing for capital right off the way. That's number one and number two for you, okay? Number three, this is the most frustrating thing that I see from talking with people that go to all these conferences and events and people have been around, is that people are not creating and emailing a database. And what's your database? Well, that's your list of contacts. That's the business cards. That's the people you meet at your networking events, at your REI expos, at all these events you go. People, and this aggravates the hell out of me, is we see people all the time that when we would teach live classes, we had 40, 50, 60, 100 people at our classes when we used to do them on the road, is that we would get everybody the database of those that are coming. We'd give you the first name, last name, emails, and phone numbers of those. That way you could market to people. And the thing that we would always know who would be successful is those that send an email out to that database within the first day or two. That separated the doers from the don't doers. All right. The number one marketing tool for you as any type of investor out there is your email database. That's your true database. Who can you email? Not who's on your social media accounts. We all know that's limiting, but creating a database of investors. Maybe you build your network by the old going out networking, grabbing business cards, going to meetup groups. That's great. That's one of the best ways to do it. Maybe you buy a database. Maybe you go to Exact Data, or you sponsor an event so you can get the attendee list. That's done. We've done plenty of that. Okay, maybe you do an email swap with somebody if you've got a database. Usually you have to have a database. Maybe you pay to be a sponsor in an event so you can collect database. Maybe you're using marketing tools like social media and other things like that to get people to opt in your database, whatever your tripwire is or your giveaway. Those are all great things, but you have to email your database at least once a week. Not once a day, but once a week at least. Tell them what's going on. What are you up to this month? What are you doing this week? What's the deal that you're working on? It's much more than just saying, hey, hi, this is what I'm doing now. You got to build that follow-up campaign. 80% of sales are made after the fifth contact, okay? So you've got to understand that you've got to get to that fifth, that sixth, that seventh contact with people in your database. That maybe is email. Maybe it is connecting with them on social media, and then maybe pick up the phone and give them a phone call or shoot them a text message. This is one of the most valuable assets of getting more deals and raising more capital, is putting an email database together. And when we've held events or big online conferences and we ask people, when was the last time you emailed your database? It's like 1 in 10 have done it in the last month. Over 50% have never emailed their database. And that's the biggest issue. You have too much of an employee mindset, and you have to embrace, hey, if you're going to be doing this, you need to get the word out on what you're doing with the email and start building a database from day one. An Excel spreadsheet is fine, but at some point you're going to evolve into having a Keep, a Black Book REI, or something like that, or REI Black Book, or Constant Contact, something. This is the number one tool for you, because you're going to use this to email and to get asset managers and using this to find capital in your database. Okay, that's number three mistake. People don't do it and they wonder why they can't find deals or they can't raise capital. Okay. Number four is another one big mistake. This kind of goes back to number one, is looking for that perfect asset, only bidding on one single asset. Yes, I know a lot of people are limited by what's in their database or what's in their bank account, but this is different. This is where you get in a spreadsheet and you find that pretty looking deal, the best looking deal, and you only bid on one asset. As I mentioned beforehand, people have about a 10% closing ratio, okay? Are waiting for that perfect asset that's everything's going to be perfect with it. That's wrong. Go bid. You got to realize this. Everybody and their dog is looking at that property, that good looking asset. You add more value to the sellers of these tapes by bidding on multiple assets, so you have a higher chance of something being accepted. If you're only going after the prettiest of the prettiest, you're going to pay more for that, or you're going to, it's going to be the skinniest deal when it comes to it, because people understand, or sellers understand, popularity. Okay. Get beyond just looking at one asset. Look at the numbers. What's the 5 or 10% of the tape or the spreadsheet that you got in that fits in with your investment requirements, with what you want to be focused on, your buy box? Only bidding on one asset will never, ever, ever get you there. Now, I understand when you're brand new, oh, you're scared. I'm going to bid on just one asset. I'm a bid a low ball asset. Don't do that. That's another mistake people do. Make ridiculously low ball bids. That's not good. Stretch yourself. Get beyond the one state. Go bid on multiple assets. It's use the law of numbers. 10, you'll get 1. 20, you'll get 2. If you have a goal of where you want to get to, cash flow wise, that's how you get there. Not but bidding on one single asset at a time or only taking the best of the best. That's a recipe for failure. And we don't want you to be failure. Go bid on multiple assets. Obviously, there are some rules. Never buy on an asset that you don't want to end up owning or taking back. That's one of my, definitely my major laws, rules, one of my big 10 commandments of that. But bid on more than one asset. Stretch yourself. Get outside your state. Get out and bid on multiple assets. It'll require you to do a little bit more due diligence to understand it, become a better note investor, but also have a higher success rate. Okay. Next one this is something I've gotten a lot of phone calls lately, is marketing to bad leads. And by bad leads, I mean people that will buy a list, or they'll go down and buy a list of seller finance leads, somebody who owner financed a property in the last year or two in their county, and they market to those deals, and they're upset on why they don't get a response, or they're upset on why nobody calls them back, or emails them back, or sends a letter, calls them off their direct mail. They're bad leads. There are companies out there. I won't name any companies, but literally I get phone calls all the time. Oh, we'll sell you a 500 not owner finance seller finance lease for like $50 or $500. I'm like, I don't want these. This is a low hit rate. Okay. Unfortunately, a lot of the educators out there in the note space, they only talk about owner financing. They don't talk about going to the bank. Well, guess what? Yes, it takes more work to find notes from banks and non-performing notes from banks that you can cherry pick, but it's worth it. Why would I want to use bad leads that I'm going to have a very low hit rate, a very low response rate? I'd much rather get a list of notes in from a bank or a lender or an institution or hedge fund on a regular basis, where I don't have to spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in direct mail campaigns that don't work. Okay. And I have people like, oh, I bought a list from Donna Bauer. I bought a list from somebody else. Okay. Well, that's fine. You bought a list. Did it work? No, it didn't work. Why didn't it work? Well, because they didn't want to sell at a discount. They don't want it, they're not interested in selling. They want to sell at a discount to make it work for me. Well, then don't waste your time or money on those leads. Okay. Quit drinking the Kool-Aid of people and take it to the next level. Put yourself in that seller financed seller. Why do they owner finance it? Well, because they probably couldn't sell it conventionally. They get it for cash flow. Yeah, it's great. But if they did a newly owner finance deal, they don't want to necessarily sell it at a huge discount. That's not was their goal. That's what they got told, but they weren't told that they would take a discount with it being no season. So don't go out and start targeting bad leads. Be smart. Use technology. Come into the 21st century and realize sending out a direct mail campaign to people that have an old owner finance note is not a good way. Now, that's not saying you can't market for owner finance notes. Yes, you can market for owner finance or seller finance notes through LinkedIn and social media. That's a more effective use of your time, or your email database we talked about. But sending that direct mail campaigns to people, I just think is a bad waste of time and money and energy. And people get frustrated about it. So don't do that. It's a huge mistake we see people make. And all you end up doing is cutting down the Amazonian forest in paper. Okay. I might be a little biased, but I've got 20 years of experience to tell me otherwise. Okay. Moving on. Here is the biggest mistake. One of the number ones that we end up talking to people want to starting off as a wholesaler. I want to start off wholesaling notes. Can you do that? Yes, you can. Is it a smart thing to do? I don't think so. Because here's the thing, to be a good wholesaler, what does it take to be a good wholesaler? Well, A, you got to market. You got to have a database. You got to market. And 3, you got to understand the deal. All right. Well, if you're going to do part 1 and building a list and 2 marketing a list, you might as well market for private capital so you can take down the list and actually buy that deal, buy that note, and make the lion's share of the profit. People will often start wholesaling because they think they can just slap a deal up on Facebook or a lead or something like that and try to get somebody to buy it. No, it just doesn't make sense. And I only say this because I've been on, when I started off as a wholesaler, It was difficult. People didn't understand the note investing. If you've got a warm database around you and they're mostly real estate people, they want real estate, not the note. I got to go through the foreclosure. What do you mean I don't own that property right off the bat? And that's huge issues that you deal with. So I always found it easier if we found a good deal instead of trying to market it for a wholesale deal, market like we're going to buy it, talk about the benefits and what we could pay our investors. And that attracted more flies to the honey versus vinegar. Okay. Starting off as a wholesaler, I get it. People want to do that because they don't have money. They're limited by their bank account, but they're going out trying to flip paper. That's fine. If you get a note you want to buy, but most wholesalers, you're only going to make a small fee, 1% on a performing note, maybe 3% on a non-performer. If you know the deal, then guess what? That adds more value to it. So starting off as a wholesaler can be a big mistake. I get probably 2-3 people booking a phone call on my calendar every week wanting to talk about wholesale notes. And that's fine. I get it. It's the safe limit. I don't have to get outside my comfort level. Guess what? You'll make more money get outside your comfort level. And you'll be able to close on more deals versus seeing all these good deals go away because people don't want to buy it because they don't want to wholesale it. They don't want to wholesale, they want to buy direct. Plus the banks too don't want to sell to wholesalers. They want to sell it to buyers. So go out, raise your capital in the same deals that same things you would do as a wholesaler to become a good wholesaler in marketing and building a database, do that to raising private capital. And you'll close on a lot more deals and make a whole lot more money. All right. Not trying to burst your bubbles, but it is what it is. Okay. And here's the number thing, not marketing your own business. We see people who don't post on social media. They don't go out and send an email blast out. They don't do videos talking about their case studies. Look, unless you're independently wealthy and you got a lot of money, you got to market. It's the 21st century. Okay. If you're learning from somebody who's not marketing their business right now, guess what? They can't teach you how to market your business in today's world. If they're in there telling you, oh, you're too small or that doesn't work, well, did they try it? Well, yeah. Or if they did, I mean, I've had some of the big names reach out to me, want to hire me to do their marketing. I tell them, no, I don't work for you. You can't afford me. All right. And that's the thing that separates our students, our successful coaching students, our successful students from anybody else, is that they know how to market. They're marketing their notebooks. They're posting on LinkedIn on a daily basis. They're uploading a case study video. They're doing an email blast out, or they have a newsletter. They're doing a variety of different things, or they're going and speaking, or going to local real clubs and doing presentations. You got to market your business. If nobody knows your business, nobody's going to invest with you or send you deals. You can't be a secret agent man in the note business or woman in the note business and be successful. You got to get the word out and share your business, share what you're doing. Number one thing, marketing, sharing on a regular basis. Then there's a variety of different things that we teach that help you, whether that weekly email or the daily posting. Doesn't take a rocket science to do it. You just got to put some things in, and it's building a muscle, a little bit different muscle. But if I know anything, note investors never really retire. True note investors that close on deals, they love it. They fall in love with it. They never retire. That's their favorite way of doing real estate. People give up the note business because A, they don't market and they don't close on deals. That's why they give it up. They go looking for something else. So they don't give it time for your seeds to sprout. Every time you send something out, post something out in marketing your note business, it may not bear fruit immediately, but it will over time as long as you stay consistent. And that's with every niche. Market your business, market your real estate business. Those that don't close deals. All right. But you got to embrace that marketing mindset. No, we're not talking 40 hours a week. We're talking if you put a little bit of time in each week, each day. Yes, we have people that work 80 hours a week, 60 hours a week, success in the note business because they understand the marketing and some of the things they can do to get the word out. And we're doing on Bigger Pockets, on Connected, on LinkedIn groups, Facebook groups, all the social media platforms out there can help you grow your note business. Go out and understand it, and you'll have a whole lot more success. All right. Here's another thing, only rely on one lead source. Now we talked about bad leads, but when you have a lead source, I'll give you a great example. But a few years back, there was a company called Granite Loan Solutions. They've changed names, they've gone out of business, changed names a couple times. But anyway, Granite Loan Solutions used to be a really good source of notes. And a lot of people got fat and lazy in marketing because they had Granite Solutions send them a list every 2 weeks that they could cherry pick from. Well, that's great. But what happens when that lead source dies? Like there was a group out of Utah called Lutetian that I used to buy from. They went out of business, or they stopped buying notes and got more into local residential real estate. Okay. If you're only relying on one lead source, you are one decision away from not being in business. This is why we always tell people you have to have a mixture. Yes, it's great. You can go. I'll give you an example. Somebody called me the other day, was talking about paper stack, and they're like, well, it's our one lead source. I'm like, are you looking at other places? No. I was like, are you pretty disappointed? They're like, yeah, it's a lot of land, some owner finance stuff, but not a lot of non-performing. Like that's your only lead source, and you're not marketing, like I said in the previous one, to get more lead sources, not contacting banks, not using some different things out there. You're out of business. You're not really in business. And I always laugh at some of the haters out there who said, oh, there's too many note investors out there. There's not enough deals. That comes from somebody who doesn't know how to market their ass out of a wet paper bag. All right. Look, there are plenty of non-performing deals out there, plenty of firsts. There's even plenty of seconds if you know how to market. I'm always amazed. Like we posted this list of seconds. I go, oh, people are, oh, there's seconds. I'm like, yeah, it's rarity, but there's not a lot of leads for it. Why don't you change? Oh, no, I only like seconds. You got to evolve. You got to stretch yourself. Go out and start contacting banks through email blast, through cold calling, through conferences for servicing companies. That's one of the great things that we teach in our 1 day, our 1 day, but also our 3 day course is all the different ways you can find leads, mortgage bankers, servicing companies, other brokers, Lane Guide, Bauer Financial. The list goes on and on. If you will just be smart and put some work into it, like anything else, go and follow up. What's different about the note business is you're not spending a lot of money on direct mail. It's all marketing online for the most part. You just got to spend some time, put a VA to it, or put in a few hours a week to find multiple leads. And once you understand a few things, you'll start seeing more leads everywhere. All right. You'll see more leads anywhere else out there. And that's the beautiful thing that we've done for 20 years is that we love multiple deals, multiple leads coming in. If I start seeing one lead source start to dwindle up, I'm making sure that I go out and research and find out where those deals came from or who else has other stuff available. There's plenty of leads out there. If you're just relying on one lead source, that's why you're not finding a deal. We had a really great lady that came to our Austin workshop, and she's like, oh, yeah, I've got one lead source. We bought like 8 notes from them. I'm like, that's great. But yeah, but they're all foreclosures. We want to actually build cash flow. We don't want to just buy notes that we end up having to go through foreclosure process and then rehab the properties up. They've had to look at a lot of stuff. They only found these 8 deals. I'm like, that's great. You got to understand there's other leads out there. I was like, where'd you get that lead? All it was the person taught us. That was the only lead they shared. Well, you got to go out and understand that there's more deals out there. And there's a lot of note sellers if you know where to look. Okay. Here's another mistake a lot of people make is that only buying notes in their own backyard, in their own city, their own state. Look, if I'd only bought in Austin, okay, I'd have gone broke a long time ago. Austin's a pretty hot spot. Now, there are some exceptions to this mistake, this rule. Like if you were back years ago in Florida, I mean, I almost moved to Florida with so much non-performing stuff out there. Bought a lot down in Florida. If you live in Ohio, there's a lot of stuff in Ohio that's non-performing. If you live in Michigan, a lot of stuff is non-performing. There's a few states that have a sizable amount of non-performing stuff, depending on what your buying appetite is. But look beyond it, okay? This kind of almost goes into some more so with one of the last mistake we'll talk about. But get beyond your state. I had a guy that wanted to argue, oh, I want to buy in Maryland. I go, well, you now need a mortgage broker's license to buy in Maryland. What? I'm like, yeah, Texas is one of the fastest foreclosure states in the country. There are other opportunities out there besides just Texas. And I had a guy that reached out to me. He was a great guy, had a great conversation. He goes, oh, we only buy in Texas because that's what my grandfather did for the last 20, 30 years. Well, the markets have changed in the last 20 or 30 years. There's plenty of opportunity. And there are other people out there. I mean, we're all control freaks as note investors. The biggest kickback I see on this, a pushback is, well, I want to go be able to see the property. Well, you're not going to be able to go see every property. Okay. There are realtors. There are people who go by and take photos for you. You can do walk around videos. There are BPO companies. You do not have to jump on a plane to go see everything. You don't need to get your pilot's license to go look at everything. Okay. When you can order a BPO for $150, have somebody drive by, call a realtor up, that's a much more effective use of your time than you trying to fly across the country to see everything. Now, look, there's been times I've jumped on a plane and went to Florida and we spent a week driving around Florida looking at a bunch of assets. Or if you're in Ohio, I flew up in Ohio to Columbus or Cincinnati, and we drove around the state looking at about 60 assets in a 3 or 4 day period. Did the same thing in Michigan for 3 days. Look, if you can hit 3 or 4, it makes sense to do that. But get outside of your backyard. Okay. There are plenty of opportunities, especially if you're in a backyard that's bad like California. Look beyond California. Get a much bigger bang for your buck. If you've been buying a lot in Florida right now, there might be want to move somewhere else in Florida. Okay. Texas is great, but Texas is the fastest foreclosure and probably one of the most expensive states out there. So get beyond your backyard. Go focus on 3 to 5 states, as I always say, a mixture of um, foreclosure time frames, and go do that. You'll see more deals, and you'll build more confidence, and you'll see a whole lot more deals and go through. All right. And I'll talk about why that in a second here. Here's the thing that falls in line with that last one. The biggest mistake is people like, oh, I only want to buy in fast foreclosures. I just want to buy in Texas and Georgia. Okay, those are the 2 fastest foreclosure states. You realize if you only buy in those 2 states, you got to have a mortgage broker's license in Georgia to do that, unless you're going to use your IRA. Oh, I didn't know that. Well, exactly. But you're also going to pay through the nose. If you just buy in fast foreclosure states, you're going to be limited to just paying probably at 60, 70, if not 80 cents on the dollar for those notes. You want really, as a true note investor, you want to evolve. Get outside your backyard, but go focus on 3 to 5 states. Yeah, make a couple non-judicial states and a couple that are judicial. Ohio is a judicial foreclosure state. It's about a 9-month process to foreclose. But if you're buying owner-occupied notes where somebody wants to keep a modification or try to modify and it makes sense to do that, you don't ever have to foreclose. So stretch yourself. Now, there are some states I avoid: New York, New Jersey, California, Washington, Oregon. Those are not good states, and they're not the easiest to foreclose in. But I love Texas. Texas is great, but you also have to spread it out. I've bought probably more so in Ohio over the years, in Indiana, than I have in Texas and Georgia. Okay, I bought a lot in Florida over the years, and that was not a fast foreclosure state, but the buy point, by being able to buy at a cheaper price, it made more sense to hold on to that and go through the foreclosure process and go from there. That's why I like Indiana, Ohio. They're not the shortest foreclosure, but they're also the longest, and there's plenty of great opportunity and bigger bang for your buck. So expand your mind, learn about those different states, pick the biggest markets, biggest cities in those 3 to 5 states, understand the foreclosure, the eviction timeframes, that kind of stuff. And you'll understand, especially if you're targeting owner-occupied, non-performing, you'll have some good ROI, some good reinstatement, some good money-making ROIs that will not only pay you, but your private investors along the way, and can be a big bang for your buck. Okay. And here's the number one, not the one, but number 11 on the list. Okay. Chasing notes with only one exit strategy. I've seen some of the smartest minds in real estate, some people who closed on millions of dollars in real estate. They come into the note business with the idea, I'm going to do one strategy. And I say this because I screwed this up my first 2 years in the note business. Okay. My first 2 years in the note business, when I bought a note, my only strategy was to foreclose and then rehab it and sell it, because I came from that neck of the woods. Okay. One exit strategy would be, oh, I'm just going to buy it, foreclose, and turn it into rental. Well, that's a lot of work to get something you're going to be making $200-300 a month. When if you buy that note and reinstate it or work to get the bar back on track, you're making that cash flow without the 6 to 9 months of foreclosure timeframes, the money to rehab it, and the attorney fees. You got to be flexible. This is why I always say that your note, especially the non-performing side, you got to really have 3 profitable strategies. It's going to make sense if they reinstate or modify the loan, make sense for cash or keys, and make sense if you end up foreclosing. I saw a guy, Chris, years ago, bought a note in Hammond, Indiana. And he's all pissed about it because he bought it with the idea to foreclose because there was a lot of equity behind it. Well, guess what? The bar reinstated, and he got all pissed off about it, that the bar reinstated, and he was just sitting there moping about it. He complained. I'm like, Chris, you've got an asset here, is cash flowing at a double-digit return. Well, I wanted it to foreclose. Well, guess what you want? You don't own the real estate. And that is like the biggest mistake we see from people is coming, they think they own the real estate. They think they buy that note, they instantly are going to foreclose. It doesn't work that way. You have to understand, you have to wear the banker's hat, not the fix and flip mindset. If I look back at those first 2 years, there's a lot of people I could have modified or worked with the real estate. I'd have made a bigger return on investment, bigger yield. I mean, a lot of those properties were way underwater, but I still would have made money if I held on to them for 3 to 5 years versus trying to foreclose and flip them. Okay. If you only have one single exit strategy, oh, I'm going to buy this just to foreclose and add to my rental portfolio, that's the wrong mindset. I'm just going to take this because I plan on foreclosing and fix and flipping. I want more REOs. That's the wrong exit strategy. You actually have to approach it from the cash flow first, especially if it's occupied. Now, of course, if you're buying reverse mortgages, let me digress here a little bit. If you're buying a reverse mortgage, you're probably going to foreclose on that most of the time, unless Bob or Jane Doe, who are your buyers, arise from the grave, all right, and start paying in time. That's the one exit strategy, is buying those, foreclosing, rehab, and either selling at auction or taking the property back. So you really have two exit strategies there, okay? But if you only focus on one exit strategy, you're going to get burned, and then you're going to get frustrated because everything you look at isn't going to make sense. And people are going to get tired of sending you tapes and letting you make offers that don't make sense. And oftentimes, if you have that one exit strategy, you're going to be making low ball bids that don't make sense. When if you made a little higher bid, you had multiple strategies, it would work out well for you. Okay. Those are some of the biggest mistakes out there that we see people making. It's people, I'm talking people down from a ledge, and people educating them on the different options. Look, if you want to learn how to avoid these mistakes as a note investor, if you want to dive into it, then our next online workshop, our next live 3-day workshop is April 25th through the 27th. It's the weekend after Easter. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3 full days. It's online, live via Zoom with yours truly teaching for 3 days. First day is all about finding assets. Second day is all about raising capital and marketing. Day 3 is all about the exit strategies, how to make money. We'll mix in a few vendors along the way, but we're going to have a great time going through this 3 days. One of my favorite classes to teach. We teach it 3 to 4 times a year. This year, we're doing 2 online and 2 in person. If you're a WCN crew member, guess what? It's included with your membership. All right. Appreciate that, Court, and glad you enjoyed that. I know you've had some questions about that stuff, and we're glad to help answer that for you. But like I said, guys, April 25th to the 27th, if you go to notebuyingfordummies.com or go to our website and click on the 3-day virtual workshop, notebuyingfordummies.com, get signed up. I think the ticket price is $497. It's a 50% discount, usually what we run it for. Get signed up, 200-page manual. We'll go through tapes. Like we just got in this tape today. I'll give you an example. This morning came in 72 first liens. Out of the 72 first liens, 43 are performing and 29 are non-performing. These are deals that you can cherry pick from. That this seller sends me deals like this every week to cherry pick from. No direct mail campaigns, no wasted time sending out postcards or letter campaigns. It's literally a listing that I can cherry pick from and go from there. So if you want to learn how to do that, then sign up for Note Buying for Dummies or sign up for a monthly membership at noteumbrella.com. But thank you guys. I wish you a great day. Be safe out there. Go out, take some action, and we'll see you at the top. Bye, everybody.